Welcome back, eReads podcast listeners. I'm your host, Liz, and this is my podcast where I talk about books, authorship, and all the different parts of the creative process. And today I have Gerry on, and we dive into the authenticity of writing and the importance of having a unique voice and how he used his real life experience and fused that with his personality to create his dynamic story. So let's jump right in and get to know Gerry a little bit more. Okay, welcome, Gerry. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself? Thanks for having me on.
I am excited to have you on. You say that you have a unique writing style, and I'm interested in learning more because I think a lot of authors struggle with like finding their voice and finding that thing that helps them stick out. So I'm selfishly wanting to pick your brain.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd love to talk about it, and yeah, thanks again for having me on. It's always a
Yeah,
pleasure to come on
absolutely.
this podcast.
Like anytime. And so I'll start off by asking you what I like to call a bookish question, which is just something related to books, just to ease into it. And so my question for you is, when you are struggling to find inspiration, what is your number one thing that you go to? It could be food, it could be a book, it could be anything, but what helps you get unstuck?
So I like to hang out with my family, and so we go on walks. I'll work out in the garage with my sons, and so usually inspiration strikes kind of anywhere. I have a different process just in general. I write the entire first draft of my phone on my phone, and so I always got my phone kind of close to me, and so if something kind of piques my interest or sparks my inspiration, or one of the kids says something, then I'll write it down on my phone, and then so I make sure I don't forget it, and so. That's usually what I do. I don't put like limits on myself, like, hey, I have to write like 2 hours a day or anything. If
Right.
I have time, I'm going to write. If I don't, hey, there's always tomorrow.
Right. So, okay, I want to pick your brain more about writing on your phone. So, but before that, please introduce the listeners to who you are in your novel.
Absolutely. So my name is G.S. Gerry. I wrote an award-winning story called Meth, Murder, and Amazon, which is a basically the world's first documented real estate roller coaster. And so it's about avoiding the evils of real estate, as I like to call it. Along the way, I actually get accused of murder and meth while I'm trying to sell my house and move away from Colorado to Florida. Yep. So this happens during an open house when I'm not even in the state, and
Stop.
so I promise. So we have an open house in like the middle of this whole situation, and yeah, there's a body that they find under the bed. Real estate agents go during the open house. They show up early, and they clear all the rooms. And so as they get to the top of the staircase and go into the guest bedroom, they see a leg hanging out from under the bed. They scream, they run out, and they call the cops on me. And they call the cops and they say that I must have murdered someone and hit the body under their bed. And that's really why I went to Florida. Cops show up, right? I'm not there. So there's no body. And so, I include a lot of evidence in the book. Like I actually have a police report from when the cops got called. Well, 4 days later, they're like, oh, yeah, we have a meeting at work, right? All the realtors get together, kind of talk about the properties and the listings. And so they're like, oh, by the way, we forgot to mention during the open house, we were in your garage and we smelled something that smelled like burning plastic. I'm like, oh no, was something burning in my garage? Like there's something on fire? And they were like, no, Mr. Drake, burning plastic means meth. And so we think that you could be
Stop.
making meth or someone could be smoking meth on the premises. So we're going to need you to get a meth test done or we're going to flag your house in the MLS for suspicious behavior. So they got fired.
Oh my
and
goodness.
and so, I ask people, it's almost like a joke, right? How many real estate agents does it take to sell a house? And people would be like, one, right? That's the logical answer. And you would think so, but that's not always the case. And so, during this story, and as I walk you through the process, it actually takes us three real estate agents to sell the house. It's a seller's market back in this time in Colorado. It's like 2019. They're like, your house is only going to take 30 days to sell. Other houses are like flying off the streets. Instead of 30 days, it takes us 6 months and just a whole bunch of calamities along the way.
That is an interesting story, right? Like you had me at, right, you go to sell a house and there's a body under the bed. So
Right.
How do we get from story to we're writing this on your phone? Walk me through your process and your unique writing style.
Absolutely. And so during this whole process, I actually work at Amazon at the time. That's how Amazon kind of comes into play. But at the end of it, I'm like, I'm moving, like I'm getting away from the meth, like I'm getting away from Colorado. It's crazy. And so I actually leave and I go to Florida. And so I leave Amazon, I go back to a company I work for. I have a situation at work. I do a lot of technical report writing. And so a couple of years ago, I had a customer call me up and she was like, Gerry, you guys gave us a report and it's completely identical as last year. I'm like, oh gosh, please don't tell me this is true. This is like a 450-page report. Start going through it, reading it. I'm like, yep, this is absolutely the same. What makes it worse is I'm the one who wrote it. And so my work got plagiarized, got sent to the customer. She knew it was the same. And so I had to rewrite the entire report. I
Okay.
rewrite it. It goes from 450 pages to 750 pages, and that's worse. When I got done, I'm like, man, I just wrote a novel. Like, this is such a long process. It took like 2.5 months to fix this whole report. I'm like, that's it. I'm gonna write a book. That's exactly what I did. And so that's really like kind of what led me to even start writing in the first place. And so as I'm like deciding, hey, I'm gonna write this book. I already have this crazy story that happened to me, right? Like people are gonna read this and be like, this is made up. I'm like, no, this is real. Like this actually happened. And so as I started writing, I was like, oh, you want to be kind of close to the data, you want to be close to the writing, and so it's like, what better way than to write it on your phone?
Oh, that's
I
brilliant.
always have
Yeah.
my and I always have my phone on me because of work. And customers always reaching out and asking questions, so just kind of convenient to do it that way. So I'll write up my first draft on my phone, then I'll upload it to the computer, and then I'll use a tool called Scrivener, which will allow you to actually compile the report, make it PDF, Kindle, whatever kind of version. And so I'll edit it for a month, and then I'll finally release it. And so that's kind of how it all happened. And so as I started writing on my phone, I'm like, if I'm going to write a book, right, I want to do something really different.
Right.
Because right, like there's so many books that come out. This is a crazy story, right? Why not write something different? And so that's kind of where I came up with this writing style. And so the way that I do it is
Mm-hmm.
I'll try and take the readers on a legitimate journey. And so this one, I actually will use a roller coaster. You start off on the roller coaster, right? You're in line, and so like something's happening in the book, the anticipation's building, and you get in it, and then you start going up, click, click, click. I'll actually add sound effects like that into the book, and so right, you're getting nervous, you're getting like
Right.
excited, and then you get to the top, and then you drop, and as soon as you drop, boom, something crazy happens. And then you ride the roller coaster around the track, boom, you go through like a loop de loop, and boom, something else in the book happens. And so constantly, continually throughout the book, I'll continue to talk about the roller coaster, or in this case, the metha coaster. That's what I like to call it, because we're on a metha coaster. And so as you go along the journey, and I take you through all these series of events, which is more than just real estate, but I mean that's pretty much the basis of the book. So
But interesting, right? Like you said, okay, how do I elevate this, right? So how do I take this from being kind of like one dimensional to like adding an element that would appeal to maybe more than those interested in real estate and those maybe interested in storytelling, right? And to think about like a roller coaster and how that goes is really interesting. Um, what kind of helped you do that? Whether like stories you've read, just sitting and thinking, kind of where did that inspiration come from?
just kind of came to me, and I was like, first off, when I'm starting this, I'm like, I've never done this before, like how do I do this? And so like I was like, oh, a roller coaster, right? Like I thought about like this whole like story on what it was going to feel like, and like roller coaster is like a perfect analogy. All right, I
Mm-hmm.
can use that, right? It'll help me kind of take the readers along, and if I keep continuing to kind of rely on that and talk about that throughout the process, like people are going to be like, oh, what comes next? Oh, where are we at on the real estate, or where are we at on the roller coaster? And then I'll kind of keep trying to tie it back. But then I want to also add another dimension to the book, and I think that's kind of where the writing style comes in. I also will do things like add emojis. I have emojis in my book, and so in random places, I'll be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, something happens, ha ha ha," laughing face, right? And so it's not everywhere, but I'll use it to add just another little dimension. And so I know a lot of books out there don't have emojis, but mine do. And so I just kind of just think about different things and just ways to do it different. I like Dr. Seuss, right? Like Dr. Seuss is a great rhymer, and so there'll be times where I'll there's the section on London bridges, right? Things are falling down, and so I'll remix that and I'll make my own little London bridges rhyme along, and I'll do it in a couple other places as well. And so I'll use sound, I'll use rhyming, right? I'll use all the just different elements to really either draw the readers in or just keep them laughing, because most of this stuff is just going to be really funny.
This is like the definition of writing the story that you want to read, right? Like it seems like you really focused on like, okay, I want to tell the story. What are the elements, right? I think sometimes in writing, rules are important, right? They help structure and all that jazz. But sometimes you have to say like, I really want to go in this direction. And it's really interesting.
Yes.
You went there. Like it seems like it really worked
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, and so I like how you said, there's rules, and so that's kind of one of the reasons why I wrote it. I'm like, I'm going to break all the rules, and so I will actually use run-on sentences, right? Like me and you are talking right now. We don't talk in complete sentences. We talk in run-on sentences when we text on our phone. We text in run-on sentences all the time, and so I'm like, why can't you write a book like that? Now, to be fair, it's not full of run-on sentences. Like the whole book isn't a run-on sentence, but I'll use them. I just misspell words on purpose. I'll basically attempt to break all the rules of how you're supposed to write to show that you can write a book and break all the rules and it'll still be good. And obviously it worked because I've won some awards now, so I can tell people, right, like I'm an award-winning author. So
Well, I wanted to ask you about that. So, how did you end up winning awards? So, right, so not only did you write a book, but you won some awards. How was that process like?
it was pretty good. And so I would just go and start researching like book awards. And so I'd find some, or I'm on LinkedIn. I follow some authors on there, and so some of them will be like, "Oh, I won an award today. It's from this company." I was like, "Oh, they won an award. Why can I do that?" And so even throughout this whole process of writing the book, I would try to send it to my friends. They'd be like, "Hey, read this for me." Like, if this sucks, tell me, right? Like, I'm gonna make
Right.
a fool of myself. No one would say anything that I was like, all right, maybe they're just being nice. They don't hurt my feelings, but no one's saying anything bad. So I release the book, and then I go to an editorial review
Hmm.
company, right, to have them do like a professional review. I was like, this is going to be the teller. And if I get like a 1 star review, clearly I shouldn't be doing this. I get the review, it's like 5 stars, and I'm like, all right, maybe I'm onto something. And the first review
What?
says it's like Robin Williams on speed, and so like I didn't know what I was going for. I was just trying to make something really funny that people could really relate to. And so I got that review, and then I submitted it again, and then I got another great review. It was actually kind of fun. Then I found these awards contests. I would just research it on Google, or like I said, I would happen to see somebody that I follow on LinkedIn or social media
Right.
that had won an award, and they would post, "Oh yeah, look at my medal." I'm like, I wonder if they have a humor category, or I pitch my book as nonfiction because it's based on a true story. It's just told a really interesting way. And so I submitted it to probably like 6 or 7, and I won almost every single one of them. I won a cover award for my book cover. I
What?
actually won an audiobook award for a reader's favorite. And one of the books I beat out was on quantum mechanics. And so, like, I like to tell people that, right? Like, I write this funny story about, a real estate roller coaster, and I beat out like a super serious book that's on quantum mechanics. And so, I felt like once I got the good reviews, it was like further validation. Then once I won the first award, then I was like showing everybody, I was like, look at this. I won an award. And they're like, what? No way. Like, we really still don't believe you wrote a book. I'm like, yes, I did. So it's been a fun process. I've
You
definitely enjoyed the journey.
Yeah, you weren't joking when you said you have a unique writing style, and it had really paid off. And I'm really inspired to just go out there and create dangerously. You know what I mean?
That's right. Absolutely. No, just don't even care, right? Like that's the whole point, right? Like who wants to read the same thing over and over again? And so, I mean, that's kind of what my thing was. Is if you're going to do something, do it different. And so, right, like Stephen King is Stephen King for a reason, right? Like his books, he sells millions of copies, but no one's going to want to read the same Stephen King book from a different author. Like nobody cares about that. But if you
Right.
do something different, that's like has elements of that, okay, people are going to relate. Oh, this reminds me of this book, but I really like the way he wrote it. And so that's really what I was going for. But when I was going through the awards, like pages and kind of their criteria, they would always be like, always looking for something fresh or always looking for something new with a new kind of creative spin. I was like,
Mhm.
perfect. I should win every award then because this is so different that there's no comparison. And so, like, I'll have friends that are like avid readers read this and they'll tell me the same thing. Like, I've never read anything like this. Like, yeah, it's so funny, had me laughing, but it also, like, I couldn't believe what you guys actually went through. I was like, yeah, imagine living that, right? And so, but whenever all this happened, I actually, I came up with the title like the month after we finally sold the house. I was talking to a friend of mine and I was telling him the story. He's like, dude, that's like unbelievable. I was like, yep, absolutely. So unbelievable. You can't make it up. Right. And I was like, Meth Murder in Amazon. What a great title. And
I was going
so
to ask you,
that's
like,
what I
where did
went
that
with.
come from?
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of happened, right? I mean, obviously, the meth is part of the story. There's a murder scene, and then I worked at Amazon, so I thought that that would make it a really catchy title. But funny enough, right? I come up with this catchy title. I'm thinking it's going to be like take off. It's going to really catch on. I posted on social media the first time. Instagram instantly banned. It banned my post every single day for months on
No.
end because of the algorithm apparently doesn't like the keywords meth murder in Amazon. So I don't know if they think like I'm, making up some fake news story about Amazon murdering people and sending the bodies in the mail, or people are sending meth in the mail to Amazon. But I would have to like reach out to them, like, hey, read the post, right? Like this has nothing to do with Amazon. I mean, I don't like blast them. I even talked to the trade department at Amazon and was like, hey, can I use your name in the book? Like, I don't want to get sued. All right, that's the first
Right.
thing I'm thinking. Like, I'm writing this funny story. I don't want to get sued. And so I reach out to them. They're like, no, you can use our name. You just can't say anything derogatory or defame us. I'm like, all right, perfect. I can definitely walk that line. And so on my post, will really be about like the meth or the murder. I'll occasionally include an Amazon like thing, like, oh yeah, I used to work for Amazon. Come check out what this Amazon employee had to go through, or something like that, right? But nothing like too crazy. I don't even swear hardly in the book either, and so I was like, they're gonna let it go through, every single day. And so I would go on other social medias. I would be like, oh, watch out, guys! My account on Instagram is under surveillance. Don't be careful what you read, right? And so it went on for months like this. And then I finally ended up winning the award. And then they finally started easing off the restrictions. But it
They're
definitely
like,
put a
oh, this
bad
is
taste in my
real.
mouth. Yes. And you would think that they would like look at the post, but I know it's the algorithm and I basically be like, oh, no, we got to review it. And whoever is the person that decides to review it doesn't read the post. They can't, or else I would have never got banned.
All right, Gerry, I'm hooked. Okay, if listeners are listening and they're hooked, how can they connect with you? How can they find the book?
Absolutely. So you can find Meth Murder in Amazon on Amazon. I also have a website. It's called greatden.com. The main character in the book is Mr. Great. It's like Great Den, but it's Great Den. And so on the website, there's links to the book. I also have a blog. And so you're kind of interested in what my writing style is like, go read the blogs because I use that same writing style on my blogs that I do on the books. I also have a tab called Meth Lab Creations. And don't worry, it's not anything to do with meth. It's actually free recipes cooking at home. I enjoy to cook. And so, if, like, for instance, I like eggs Benedict. And so I found a recipe that was inspired by Gordon Ramsay. So I'll just take it and throw it up there. I've tried it, I've used it. And so I basically just share a bunch of free recipes on the website and the blog. I think there's even maybe there is a blog out there about when the house almost burned down when I made chicken wings. So there's just a little bit of everything up there.
Fantastic. And what would you say to folks if they're listening and they're just like, I don't know, should I try to deviate from the path of normal? Like, how do they walk that fine line? How do they find their unique style? Any last words for them?
Absolutely. I would say just be yourself, right? Like, write what you know. If you're funny, right? It's easy, be funny. But if you're not funny, don't be funny, right? Because people are going to notice, readers are going to be like, that's not funny. Like, why did he say that? Or why did she say that? And so if you write what you know and you just kind of stay true to yourself, you can't lose, right? Don't read all these other books on writing or read all these other authors because then you're just innately going to pick up their style. I'm not a huge reader. I mean, I read a lot for work, but I have 5 kids. And so I don't have time to just sit down and read a book. I've got all these other things to do. And so I like to watch movies. I like to watch shows and I like try to predict the ending and things like that. But the more you read the similar authors or what genre you're going to go to, eventually you're going to start kind of sounding like them. So you kind of try to stay away from that, stay true to yourself and just write something different, right? Like put it out there. If you're writing a book, there's people that are going to not like it regardless. Even if
Mm,
you wrote the best book and try to appeal to everybody, there is no book that appeals to everybody. I found that out as well. And so find your kind of target audience who you're actually writing for, and then just do something different, right? You never know what might happen.
absolutely. I love that. To stay true to you and do what feels right. Fantastic. Um, really fun, great interview. Thank you for stopping by. Y'all, if you missed any of the contact information, check out the episode show notes. That's where everything is going to be. I'm going to check out Meth Lab so I can get me some recipes. One last question. Is this it for the writing bug? Do you have anything else that you want to write about?
So I'm actually writing my second book right now, and it's going to be a reality show in a book. And so
Stop
there's
it.
no,
Clever.
yeah, that's right. And so I did some research on this before I decided this is what I was going to do. And there's like, there might not even be 5 books out there in the whole world that are based legitimately on a reality show. And so, like, I'll read their descriptions and I'll be like, one guy goes on a reality show and he's like, on this like dating thing. I'm like, all right, I'm totally going away from that. Like, I'm not doing like something like that. I like it, Stephen King, right? Funny enough, I mentioned him, but he actually has a book called The Running Man, and there's an element of a reality show, but none of these are true reality shows. Hunger Games, same thing, right? Like, there's a
Hmm.
reality show element, but it's not a reality show. My book is going to be just a complete reality show, and it's based on, you meet your girlfriend or you meet your boyfriend for the first time, then you go meet the family, you guys fall in love, you live happily ever after. But what happens when the person you're dating is actually secretly recording your family and sending the events out to the whole world to view? And so that's kind of the premise of my book is, the main guy, his name is Victor. He has a hidden camera or a series of hidden cameras, and he goes to meet the parents. But then he gets way more than he ever bargained for. His girlfriend has 3 brothers that are around his age. They abuse him, they maim him, right? And so all throughout the book, something crazy happens. Like, even just in the opening episode. So each chapter is like an episode, like you're watching. And so in the first episode, he actually gets wrestled by 2 of the brothers, hogtied, and then they just like, they basically like string him up, and they're like, oh, right, like they got him. The next chapter, the one that her dad actually chops his finger off, and so he's there for this whole process and sees it. And so along the way, each chapter is just going to build on like, hey, he just is getting dragged through the mud in all these different kinds of scenarios that seem like they could legitimately happen. And it's all like, hey, so and so looks at the camera and says, or so and so turns, and the camera captures, right? And so there's a constant element of capture of looking into the camera or the camera being present there. And so I thought that would be really fun. It would be really unique. Plus, like, lots of people like reality shows, so I thought that would be kind of a good idea.
Listen, I'm sure I'm going to see this on Netflix one day. And
That
just remember, you
would be
stopped
great.
by here.
Absolutely. That would be great. I think it
Oh
would be
my
really
goodness.
funny.
Yeah. Thank you so very much. Great interview, and have a great rest of your day.
All right, you too. Thank you.